Okay, Kermit Weeks here, Fantasy of Flight, and I am heading to Fantasy of Flight. And behind me I have two Brits in tow, Martin and Steve from over in England, and they were the ones that did a lot of the work on the restoration of the Demon. And they came over and they're here for 2 weeks, and we're going to put it together and learn all about it and hopefully get it running and maybe fly it. We'll see. So anyway, we're coming into Fantasy of Flight. Yesterday we spent the whole day at Sun and Fun. I think they were blown away by what was going on and meeting people and all that kind of stuff. So pretty cool. Got a couple of people that may be flying in an A26 later from Sun and Fun, so we shall see what's happening. This ought to be fun, and we're going to be learning a lot about the airplane. We're going to pull a lot of cowlings off. I've just basically unboxed it to this point, and we shall see what happens. The details are in the Demon. Okay, here we go. This is Martin here. What's happening?
You're right.
Good. Y'all get some good sleep last night?
Yeah, we did.
Good. Awesome. Cool, Steve. Great. Okay, let's check this out. I basically, we got it all unboxed, and we basically got it laid out. This is one of the toy boxes. It made it thanks to your great packing.
Yeah, there's an old friend there.
Good, good, good. So I've made a lot of room. We moved, I had some boats and jet skis in here and stuff. And
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It survived well.
No, it did great. So so there's the top wings. I got the bottom wings over here. I got the prop, you know, the struts all laid out here. Bottom wings are there, tails back there, because that's where we'll probably start, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And we didn't, you know, I didn't undo anything. I just left it the way you did, because I didn't know if y'all had some special thing. Exhaust stacks. Here's all the British palmy tools that, you know. Give me a little brief as to how you guys got involved in this and where this came from.
This could go on for a long time. So how brief do you want us to be?
Well, I mean, I've heard it was a restoration over 19 years. I heard 21 years.
Yeah. It elapsed time. It started and stopped, and I think really you need to go way back to its beginnings. It came to us through Guy Black.
Right.
As a kit of parts, and when we mean a kit of parts, we really do mean a kit of parts.
Well, just back up a little bit.
Yeah.
What was the history of the airplane up to the point where somebody got it, and what kind of condition was it in?
So as far as we're aware, or as far as I'm aware, it was an ATC instructional air training corps.
Right.
I'm sure you have the same sort of thing in
Yeah.
the States, and they practice things.
Airframe.
And this was built in 39, like
This
the
was built in 39,
and they
yes.
started building them like around 35 or 6 or.
Yeah.
Let's take it a little step further back. The Hart bomber, the day bomber,
Right.
which is what this was based on, was faster than the fighters of the day. The Hart day bomber and the Hart trainer were the sort of the mainstay training aircraft. The RAF in their wisdom decided to categorise each airframe into a fighter, a bomber, air reconnaissance.
That's where all the names came from.
All the names come,
Nimrods.
and they were all different in many respects.
Huh.
So this was a light it was a light bomber because it only had one set of bombs under the wing, one side of the wings. But it was mainly a fight. It was a Demon fighter, but it had two forward-firing machine guns instead of one.
Right. So one's here, sits in the cockpit, and then you got a rear gunner in the back.
A lot of the drawings were labelled Heart Fighter before it got the
Oh,
name
really?
Demon.
So do you guys have drawings and stuff for this?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah, at some point, it'd be great if I could get some copies or something. It'd be awesome.
Because I think we should say as well, when it came, it was Sky Sport. It came to Sky Sport, and we worked for Sky Sport.
Right.
So you know, we were involved at the start, but it was under the Sky Sport.
So yes,
and that's Tim Moore.
That's Tim
Yeah.
Moore.
So Guy Black found the airplane.
Yeah.
He pulled the whole thing together. He did a really good job of putting the whole package together, having to hunt through and get the parts. Then Tim Moore from Sky Sport Engineering, along with Hal Davis, the prospective new owner, or
the one that funded it. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he was a RAF squadron leader.
Used to fly Vulcan bombers, but the family, along with Hal Davis, decided they wanted a project, and that was a project.
Kermit's always looking for a project.
And it was we got really involved through Sky Sport Engineering when Tim pulled the thing together with Hal, Guy, and himself as a company, Sky Sport Engineering. Me and Martin were working with Sky Sport Engineering at that time. And our experience really up to that date was mainly with First World War aircraft, and lots of them. But this was a different challenge for us. Because
totally.
I think what people don't understand about them really is the HAWKER range. If you took the frontline fighter of the day, the Spitfires, and even the Mustangs you have in the States, when they're built as a monocoque structure, they need space. They need to be bolted to the ground. They need jigs. The downside to that is if you're in a war zone and it gets bombed, that goes.
Right.
Everything just goes. Your jigs go, and you've got to restart the whole thing again.
That's why when they were making parts for the different airplanes, they had women at tea parties making them in their little houses, so they spread everything around.
Absolutely right. The beauty of this design, and it is a strange design, it's a First World War design, but made in steel and aluminium.
Right, and this structure here, it was all put together. This was basically kind of like what the forerunner of what the Hurricane ended up doing, right?
The Hurricane's exactly the same structure.
Right.
And it's built in the same way.
Where it's so clever is that if you get hit, if we open up, instead of it having to go back to the factory, you can just change the tube.
Right.
Yeah, they're riveted together. But
Oh
you
yeah.
can actually get to it.
Oh, so every tube is
So every tube is riveted in.
and it's aluminum.
The uprights are aluminum. Longerons are steel.
Okay.
And the
Towards the
plates
back
are
it's
stainless.
aluminum,
Stainless
and at the
steel.
front it's in steel tube. The beauty of doing it this way is you can put a single post at the front of the fuselage and a single post at the back. And then this is going to sound rude, and it doesn't mean to be, but you could take unskilled labour, mainly young ladies and women, and you could put them into a close place with pillar drills and small machines, and they can make multiple parts of tubes.
Right.
What the government...
And they're all done with jigs, so they're all exactly the same.
Exactly.
So they just all bolt together and...
Yeah, all the
Well,
jigs
we'll show
are
you,
jig
we'll
drilled
show
on
you
the
how it
drawing,
goes
says
together,
jig drilled, so,
but the government of the day also had made a sort of a decision. They did not want to be held to ransom for materials they could not produce. In America, fantastic, you've got millions of acres of spruce.
Yeah.
And in the First World War, it was fantastic for the...
Yeah, well, and we were open and we never got bombed.
And you could transport... We did have a British Empire.
Well,
at that
except
time.
at the end of the day with some Naked in Jamaica rum.
But the materials were shipped across, and it was vast. Logistically, it was huge. But so they designed a frontline fighter, mainly the Bristol Bulldog. It was constructed like a First World War fighter, but it was made entirely of steel.
Wow.
Very, very thin steel.
Huh.
Not steel tube.
Right.
It was rolled into sections and then riveted up to represent tubes.
Oh, I'm having visions of the way the
it's just
spars are made and
that's
some of the,
it.
oh
Yeah,
my
yes,
God.
yes.
What were you all thinking?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
for us restoration guys down the road, you
Yes,
know?
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
But Hawkers had a bit more sense really about it. Well, they took round tubes, and then this is where we got sort of involved a little bit,
And rolled them,
and rolled them into
Yeah.
squares on the end.
right, or hexagonal or octagon. Yeah.
That's the spars, yeah, which
Yeah.
this is just the fuselage. So you take a round tube, different size round tubes, but you'd square the ends so they became the same size, so you could join them together. So you'd have
Wow.
a small tube, which it wasn't necessarily a square, it might have been a rectangle,
Right.
but you turned it in a way so it fitted the next tube next to it.
Wow. I'll be darned. Well, this thing is too cool, that's for sure. I think today what I'd like to do is you guys just basically inventory that everything that's there so you know what's there and where it goes. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like whichever of the tail feather parts, you know, if this is going to be the first thing that goes on, then we can kind of organize that. And then at some point, I mean, I'd kind of like to be here a little bit maybe when you're pulling off cowlings and stuff, you know, because tomorrow what I want to do is my AI Jack will be here, and I want to go through with him and record like what's this, explain this, how did this go together, and you know, and I can share that on my YouTube channel, but I want it for my record because if you know you guys are all partying somewhere in England and I can't get a hold of you with a question, you know, we can go back and look at the videos. So cool.
We can do that. Yeah, we can certainly. We'll attempt to answer anything you'd like to know about.
And do these just come off with a normal screwdriver, or do they just push in and rotate, right?
They can do. The danger of big long screwdrivers is people.
Right. Okay. So it's more like a little thing that goes like this.
I don't know if you've got a hurricane or you know hurricanes.
Yeah, I've just got a project, but no cowling.
But so there's a key. I'll show you. It's in the car. I'll show you my key. It does two jobs. It undoes the cowlings and it undoes your fuel and oil caps.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the Hurricane was a slightly longer version, just get a bit more power.
Yeah, I mean over here I've got like little flat-handled Zeus tools that we used to take Zeus. Cool. Well, I am fascinated to learn about all this stuff, and one of these things is this funky weird, like what the heck is this bungee for? And it goes back there, and they're telling me it's somehow the radiator goes up and down, and I'm like, what?
So that takes the weight or balances out when it's full of water. Obviously it's really heavy.
Right.
So in the cockpit you've got a handle, it comes down really easy.
Whoa, for sure.
But going up, you need the bungee to help. So basically it balances out the weight of the bungee. So it's equal up and down.
So is it just, so it's kind of like having a radiator flap, but it just goes up and down inside the airplane?
Well,
for cooling?
It comes down for cool up to...
The Fury, they fixed the radiator, which is the single seat fighter.
See that?
The trouble with leaving the radiator fully out is drag. So
Right.
I thought we can raise the radiator in, and that reduces the drag. But so it's a balance. So the pilot's balancing the temperature by moving the radiator up and down. He doesn't need to move it too much. Later fighters, they also wanted to reduce the drag, but they needed big radiators. But what they did, and the clever part, was they built the big radiators, but reduced the air intake down because the air was coming in too fast. It was a high speed, especially a high speed, say a Mustang or something, coming in very, very fast. So they needed to slow the air down. So they went through the small hole.
Right.
The air opened out over the radiator.
Okay, yeah.
And that way it worked.
Yeah, I'll be darned. And I think in the Mustang, you know, with the little scoop in the back there, when they designed it, they designed it to where the heat in the back became thrust and there was no drag of the radiator under the Mustang with that scoop.
Very clever engineering. So once we take the panels off this, you'll see inside that it's got a concertinaed aluminium tube section there with gland packing in there.
Wow.
It'd make perfect sense to put rubber hoses on, but the British didn't do that.
Yeah,
Interesting, on the one seat, the single seat Hawker version, they did actually have louvers.
Louvers like the Rolls-Royce
So he didn't go in and out on that.
This I found fascinating. The oil cooler, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
okay. And it's actually offset from the center line because the prop spins this way, so you get a the thrust is basically hitting it like this, and they've angled this thing from a. That's pretty
called
cool.
a Potts cooler. I think it's at a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Started off as 7 fins.
Right.
So it's a bit shorter. Wasn't cooling enough, so they increased the fins.
Well, you can have any number.
You
of
can
fins
have, Martin says, any number on there.
So this thing comes apart.
Yes,
you just add more.
These are all individual sections. And as Martin's just said, you can remove this strap, which is ready to stop the things getting damaged, because these are quite fragile.
Real. Are these available, or?
No, that's all original ones.
That's an original one.
Wow,
but we
because
have drawings for that.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking this might be okay in the UK, but over here in Florida, we might have to add about 6 more.
You should be okay, I think.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of temps do y'all? I mean, at Shuttleworth in the summertime where it flew.
It can be hot,
Yeah, they
Unreal.
were used in the Middle East and the Far East and all sorts of hot countries.
And my understanding is, of course, this airplane has a tail skid. There's no tail wheel. No. So at Shuttleworth, they flew off a grass runway. I've got a grass runway. And, it kind of limits the possibilities for different owners. But the reality is, a couple of the guys over there, I've seen them put tail wheels on Hearts and things like that, which it makes it look funny.
The latest model of this, they had a tail wheel on the very late models.
They did.
Change them.
And the reason for that is because Bolt and Paul started fitting turrets, hydraulic turrets, and got very heavy on the back. So we have, I think we do have some drawings for the tail wheel.
Yeah.
There is a tail wheel modification.
Okay, cool. Well, that'd be great to have. And also, did I understand, I mean, if you're operating off of grass or with a skid, you don't necessarily need the brakes that much. But it's my understanding they barely use them when, when Stuart was flying.
Agreed. The Hearts, all the 2-seat training Hearts and the Heart bombers never had brakes. They weren't used.
Really?
So the advantage of brakes is you don't really need wing walkers to bring it in off of an airfield once you get down to low speed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're coming in quite hot.
Yeah. So you guys still had that surf mentality over there, okay? And let me tell you, man, when I had the Mosquito, the guy in the cockpit didn't even have a primer to prime the engines. The surf got out in the cowl, and he'd sit there going like this, and the stacks coming down, burning his hair off. I mean, whatever. Anyway, see. That's what.
For a while, this ran. The exhaust wasn't working, so we ran it on stubs.
Really?
And you're right. When you're standing up there, turning the handle, that's why I've got no hair.
That's how it starts it.
So if the
it
pilot
flames out on you.
If the pilot was unkind to you and overprimed it, you'd set your hair on fire.
Oh my gosh, amazing. This thing is so beautiful. I tell everybody, if airplanes were women, this would be a supermodel. I'm just telling you, it's just so beautiful, and the work. And so, how much did you guys actually start with the airplane? What was missing? How much it was?
Well, the back end was in fact, the whole aircraft was in a sorry state. It was heavily corroded, no fabric, no wood. Just the aluminium and steel tubes. We had an engine, but which wasn't airworthy.
Right.
It was in a bad way. Tail surfaces, rudder, they were all open and pretty much corroded, weren't they?
The rudder was okay. The rudder was
pretty much probably the best part of it.
And was good.
Yeah. But we made a conscious decision to respar the whole thing because
when you say respar, you're saying the fuselage
wing spars
or wings?
and tail spars and centre section spars.
Okay, how about the fuselage tubes and all that?
The longerons was the cross bracing. You'll see tends to be original.
Okay.
We stripped it down to every single nut and bolt to the finest.
Well, in fact, the longerons have been cut down by the ATC.
Yeah, they chopped them.
They chopped it down as one of their exercises, so we couldn't have used them if they'd been.
So we had to take a common sense approach to it, and we inspected each part, so each individual tube. If it was salvageable, it would be cleaned, inspected, internally cleaned as well, and it was epoxy painted inside the tubes to look after them, to preserve them, and then externally epoxy painted. If it was aluminium, it was anodized,
Great.
In fact, sorry, I'm going to
You
cut
can carry on, wasn't it?
The uprights, aluminium,
Yeah.
dural actually, but we scraped the paint off, paint stripped them. The anodizing was perfect underneath.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
they've all
awesome.
just been repainted and put
Wow.
in all of
Huh.
those.
Yeah,
But-
anodizing is a great process
Yeah,
for
yeah.
aluminium. It really is.
Yeah.
It can. We have found components that have been in a river, for example, in Ireland, probably 50, 60 years, and came out and you can use it
Huh.
just because it was anodized.
Yeah,
It's
and
quite
especially
incredible.
when they were using them on like, water airplanes like Kingfishers and ducks and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, no, that's great.
So if you saw the Navy version of this, the Osprey, or the single seat version, which is the Nimrod, this would be anodized, the aluminium,
Really?
not polished,
Really?
and they're so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they use stainless steel spars as well. With
Wow.
the spars were very thin,
Huh,
very
like,
high grade steel.
like what kind of thin? 20,000s?
28,000,
28,000s. Okay.
26, 28.
28 gauge. No, I can't
Gauge,
remember what
sorry.
that
Oh,
is.
gauge.
Yeah, gauge.
That's
I can't
even
remember.
I'd have to go look that up.
Yeah.
The
Huh.
so
That's like British feet and
Yeah,
American feet.
For some
and-
reason, we're not quite as AWG is not the same as what we would call
Standard.
SWG.
No.
It's
Imperial,
close, but
imperial feet and,
that's it,
and
yeah.
US feet.
gallons, US gallons.
So this is where the team came together really on this one, because Guy Black was mainly dealing with the spars and how, unfortunately, the funder, but Guy was really pulling the spars together. We were concentrating more on the fuselage, but the whole thing had to work with a group of people.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
And it's,
So were there any wings at all?
but the wings, there were wings, yes, but they were unusable because the
Right.
spars had corroded heavily.
Right, but at least you had patterns and shapes. And,
Well, and drawings at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah.
Martin had done a lot of people had done a lot of groundwork, but Martin did a lot of hard work pulling that together and then filling the holes in because we were missing parts to the drawings. And they needed filling in really with that at this point. So they had to be redrawn, and the one thing we wanted to, we were adamant at that time to do, it's got to be right. It's
Yeah.
no compromise.
That's
there's
the way
no
we like to do.
approximate.
I mean, except for safety, if there's something
there's-
safety you have
yeah,
an
this,
issue.
this, where you'd have a seatbelt in the back instead of a rope. That's the sort of safety features. But really,
Back to that surf mentality.
Yes.
Yeah, you're being a bit harsh there, Steve, aren't you? You did have a proper harness in
It-
this one.
this
By
did.
now.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pilot. Yes, it's the back I was referring to.
yeah. I don't know.
The pilot had a good harness actually.
Yeah, there's a little tie ring in the bottom. that
Yes.
He just used to hook himself in.
Wow. Pretty cool.
The only thing I will say, I was lucky enough to get a ride in the back trying to operate the machine gun, not in
Yeah.
anger, but I think it's for a photo shoot. And I now realise why they went to turrets at over 200 miles an hour. There's no way on earth a man can stand up and operate a machine gun.
Really?
And I was young then.
But what's it cruise at?
I don't know what it cruises at actually. It's over 200.
Over 200.
No, okay, now let's get this straight here. Are we talking miles per hour
Oh,
or not?
sorry.
This is a miles per hour aeroplane.
This is, oh, it is?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so it was an eye-opener really, and I can see why when Bolt and Paul were coming to sort of their production aircraft, they were fitting hydraulic turrets to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. So, but still, if it's a hydraulic turret and you're saying the speed the guy couldn't stand up, did he still have to stand up with the hydraulic turret?
Yeah, the hydraulic turret was all
It
over
was
the
in it.
air.
It was like a turtle shell.
Oh,
And it would go round.
It was a pucker turret. Yeah. It was,
Oh, I see. Oh, did it have, was it plexiglass?
yeah.
The very early ones were
Just something in the-
segmented like aluminium, like a.
Okay.
But
okay.
not these had the pucker turret, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they did, yeah.
Yeah, but it was just in the front and then it was open in the back?
No,
Because
no,
No,
that was a
I think
It
turret.
was completely.
Yeah, turret.
I'll be darned.
But
Huh.
it didn't work.
Yeah, well, one of the things, I mean, the first thing to do is that we understand everything, and then, we'll start assembling everything. Today's Sunday, and the guys will hit the ground running tomorrow, and get the thing assembled, get it rigged. I got rigging sticks, and we've got the wing racks that, we've made over here that we can get the thing together. And, and then the other thing is just to get it running, checking for leaks, blah, blah, blah. And then if we do get to the point to where, you know, there's a possibility of flying it, since we don't have the machine guns yet, I mean, these are pretty much on the CG. I don't know, do you guys have do you know what the weights of those are? I mean, we could throw a couple of 50-pound bags of sand in the back, you know, and pretty much be in the CG range. We'll figure it out. Cool.
These are weights for when people are not in the back. So
Oh, really? Oh, that is a total new insight to me. I thought these were here just because of the fact that the wings weren't on.
No.
Those you put on if nobody's...
Fly with those on.
Oh,
So
my
one of the guys
gosh.
that came to visit when it was being built he worked in the Bolton Pool, because this is a Bolton Pool built example. He worked in the Bolton Pool flight shed testing these, and he said there was a suggestion box on the wall, and his suggestion was that instead of putting ballast in the bag,
Oh, yeah.
they put a tube on there with lead weights, and he got, can you remember
Oh,
how much
yeah,
he got?
well,
He got a reward for coming in,
Oh,
and
my
they
gosh.
incorporated
Well,
it.
you've got a better...
But he came to visit when it was
Yeah.
being done, which was quite good.
Well, you've got a longer arm, so you're taking less
that's it,
weight,
yeah.
although it is kind of funky. It's a biplane, you got a little more drag, but they are kind of streamlined.
Well, because every RF station would have a supply of those. So obviously, if you've got someone in the back and you go somewhere, you wouldn't
Go
take
to the
that.
stores. There's a standard weight, standard size, and it would just be put on.
Unbelievable. Now, I can't believe nobody got the idea to go ahead and paint this on the thing. I'm just saying, you know, that's my contribution to British history. Oh my God. Oh, well, let's look around and see what we got here. So it seems we've met Ken here. Thanks for coming out, Ken.
I'll find it a bit.
I gotta make up some time
Oh yeah, cool, okay.
for being gone.
Yeah, all right, so you guys want to start pulling off some panels, and you know, we'll go from there. Basically what I want to do today, Ken, is the A26 shows up at like 12:40. Roger is a friend of mine, and basically I want to get them basically pulling everything off, and what I want to do is go through this whole thing with all the cowling off and everything, so we look inside and learn everything we can and record everything about the airplane. And at some point too, while they're off, we should just do a little bit of cleaning up of the aluminum, you know, just polish it up a little bit. He said the metal on these are a little bit thinner, so you don't want to get them with like a big buffing machine or anything, but let's just clean them up because it's all going to come off.
Yeah, the only place we would suggest first is you need somewhere to store them, because particularly the wooden panels, if you get trodden on, people do tend to walk on them. So
there you go, Ken. We want to lay stuff under wings. I mean,
anywhere
under here
the
would be
wings
fine.
is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just point something out that I noticed? So during your DI, you see this side?
Right.
That's fitted.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
You see on the other side, it's a design fault. You can actually, you see they hook in a little.
Oh, you have to
little
hook them in, not over here, but in here.
It doesn't go behind the fitting like that, but you can do that.
Right.
And it does
I see. Okay.
Which I think the other side is, and it's just during your DI, just make sure they're in line.
What's a DI?
Daily inspection.
Oh, okay.
Before you fly.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, once all this stuff comes off, it's going to be really cool. We got a VIP tour going on over here. We do, that's why all the lights are on before I got here. You know, I can't do, this used to all be open for everybody for a certain price, and you know, I couldn't pay the light bill, so what we do now, we do VIP tours. They're private, about 3.5 hours. They go through all the storage bays on the side, both hangars, the museum light and stuff, and whether it's one person or 5, get 4 friends, and it's $100 a piece, it's $500. So That's the best I can do for now. Okay, just start pulling stuff off. Oh,
I'll get you a drawing for that. I've got one. I brought one
That's for the oil cap or the fuel cap.
fuel and oil cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's your cowling screwdriver.
Okay, cool.
Quite simple. It's very sentimental to me. I don't know. I've done a lot of aeroplanes with that one.
Oh my gosh.
But you can see why it would have been red at one time.
Huh.
Well
so
polished.
so can you get those, or can we show Ken he can make it?
Yes, we've got a drawing.
Okay, go.
It's an A, what they call an A standard.
Okay.
There's the number.
Yeah, good.
And I have that drawing.
What's easy to pop off?
We'll take everything off, but
Oh yeah. Oh, this comes off
this
too.
all comes off. The side comes off. The back comes off.
Oh,
So
awesome.
all you do is pop your key in, turn them.
Okay.
Half turn. So that's your finger hole.
A finger hole.
Yeah, well, you'll
okay.
see why in a moment.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see.
And all the clips have got a,
Huh.
see, they've all
Now-
got a cross to show when they're done up.
Right.
This here looks like it's broken, but it's not.
Right.
see-
So you got to get the cable out
You'll
of
see
there.
why. Yeah.
Okay.
use the two
but
finger-
but it looks like the leather's broken.
Yeah. No. So this little door hinges out. And then this cable
Oh.
drops
It's
over
a
the
bit
top.
tight.
Oh, so you don't actually have to undo
No.
the. I see. And then it goes down.
And then take it away.
Oh.
And this is the same, they've got slots, so that's a bit fiddly to
Yeah, these slots
put their
here,
slots.
Oh, I see.
Not-
Okay.
Not the back of the fitting.
I'm
They
with
go
you.
they
the
lock
slot.
in and swing in.
Okay. Cool. And there's somewhere.
Where are they?
One.
See 'em?
There's one right there, maybe. Oh yeah. No, they're little things.
Oh yeah, there
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, there's one. There's a slot, and then there's an angle behind it. You see the slot?
Yeah.
And it needs to go in the
Okay.
slot.
We'll figure
But
that
you
out.
can see if that's sitting.
Oh, this is
back.
great for where. Oh, and there's a handle right there, and they got a little leather thing on the side, you know. So you.
And if you jack it, that's a solid up to that tube.
Okay.
So I think we put the.
When you say, but is
If
it
you
is it
put a
flat
trestle
across
under
or
it.
it's?
No, we put the somewhere. We put the.
Oh, so you have a
It goes-
cradle that
yeah,
fits
yeah,
there.
there's, and we put it in somewhere.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll look at all that stuff. Oh, this will be great.
You can get rid of these.
Yeah.
You don't need these anymore.
Wow. Cool for what do they call it? A decacent or something?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? Yeah.
So you see the bit of lead to give it a bit more.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, some lead there for weight.
I think that's because we didn't. There's no ammunition in it. There's no gun drams.
The guns are still over in the UK, and you know we're dealing with ATF and their people over there as to what to do, and you know, and we'll talk about that. They're deactivated, but anyway, everybody's off the chart about stuff. So potentially, if we have to cut pieces up and stuff, you know, over here, I know you have the receivers got to be cut, or you know, we just replace you just don't have any of the internal receiver stuff and
Yeah.
put a flat plate on the
Okay.
side. You know, if we end up doing something like that or whatever, if we have to cut a barrel or something like that, what I'm thinking is maybe you guys could just like take the gun, make a jig, and then do whatever they need to do, and then when they ship the guns over,
Yeah.
give us the jig and we'll just weld it all back together. I have no interest in owning a live machine gun. Okay, now we're getting into some pretty cool detail.
Right,
So
these are called fairy fasteners, designed by the Fairy Company.
Okay.
They're standard
So
fasteners.
is like Tinkerbell or?
Yeah, it's a bit like your Zeus really, but yeah, fairy fasteners, yeah.
Okay.
They were used on the Hurricane and, well, a lot of the HAWKER ranges as well, apart from the Fairy.
Uh-huh.
They were patented, I guess. So the two lines
Right.
dictate when
Yeah.
it's locked.
Steve, they're polished.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it's in line with the airflow, really, it's locked.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And when it's so they're the two lines, and when it's out of
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
straightforward. Yeah.
That's pretty obvious, okay.
Yeah.
So here's the exit chute for the bullets there, and the gun mounts inside. Or mounts up right here, actually. That's a trim wheel. God, look at all that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you start looking at some of the detail here, and I guess you guys had to make like the seats and...
Seats original.
Oh, it is.
We had a lot of original. This is original. That's original. I think that's all original. I think we had to make one of these, but they both look. That one might be new. But there is a lot of original bits.
Right.
In the
That's interesting how they, you know, cushion that.
Rattle, anti-vibration.
So does that just glue on the inside there? I feel it.
I think it's really.
It feels like it's just glued. It's folded around and then it stops right there.
I think I was going to say, is it not riveted in?
Huh. Oh, that looks like it's riveted right there.
Okay, so it goes round and comes back.
Yeah. I'll be darned. Well, anyway, it looks pretty cool. I mean, that's neat. That little stuff there. Look at all this little detail where it's all sewn with the stack there. And of course, I guess what they were trying to do here was to get rid of any flame at night, basically. So they were. I didn't realize this whole thing popped off in the back.
So there used to be a generator in there. So the hole was the intake, so the air went in there,
Exhaust
came out there.
And what was that went in
For
there?
a generator.
A generator?
Yeah, it would have been a big generator.
Wow, okay.
We don't tend to use them anymore because modern avionics don't take much to all.
Oh, okay. Does this have any avionics?
Nothing.
Yeah, good,
whatsoever.
okay. I mean, I've flown twin-engine warbirds across the country with a handheld radio stuck in my parachute with a 6-inch, antenna, and then I avoided control towers. Occasionally, I'd have to go into Airport One, but
Well, the bit at the back, this door here, that's where they actually had the radio receiver in there. There was a tray that went across there.
Okay.
See, it's got the hole.
Oh yeah.
The original part. That's the
I'll
hole.
be
It picks
darned.
up on the other one was under there, I think. But it's it's sat in there.
And this was, I think y'all said this was like covered like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And we punch tested it, and it was.
I was going to say
it was fine. Yeah, it was okay.
Just the final coating is quite hard, and it snails, it like cracks. So
Yeah. I think we did it like on the inside where you didn't. We did it like somewhere in here or something like that just to check it. But anyway, that's cool. So what happened here? I mean, I see you got a later deal here. Was that to put something in that never got put in?
In the UK, every 3 years, we have to do GR8, General Regulation. I don't even know what it stands for.
Huh.
But basically, you have to do an internal structure
Really?
inspection
Huh.
of everything. So of course they didn't have panels to look everywhere. So you'll see.
But what I don't understand is they just left it there, and then if the next time around they would have put a
So now
then you
next
would cut
time
it.
you just
Okay.
cut around there and
see.
stick a patch over there.
Okay. Now
Or you can get the doors, as you know.
Right.
With
now
a patch.
originally this was recently done, but my question is, originally was this the color that this was, or this was
It should have been this colour.
It should have been that
Yeah,
color.
yeah.
Okay, all right, whatever.
It fades and changes, and every dope batch comes out
Oh,
different
okay,
colour.
yeah, all right. I mean, this almost looks like a little different, but I like that the way that you'll
Yeah, I was
originally
gonna say
frayed
this
the
looks-
edges, and instead of having the pink
Yeah, the
tapes.
drawings say it is frayed. We've seen an original wing
Yeah,
where
I mean they were still. That was World War One.
the patches are pinked, but the tape is frayed. So they're obviously just using up old stocks. I think it was in the early 30s they started to change from one to the other, and this is clearly right on
Oh,
to the turnover.
that's really cool. I like that hand grip. Look at it; it's all laced around there, and then it's got a. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you tie it off each one. And
That is very cool. And just out of curiosity, why is this one wider than this one?
no idea.
Yeah, no, but you see that?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
like-
that wide, and that one's that wide.
Yeah, no, it'll
Huh.
because that's original as well, so it'll be how it was.
All right. Yeah, that one I didn't get in right. Now I know.
Yeah, that's what I said. Just before you fly.
Oh, that makes sense. So you just need
It's
the
just
one on
that
the
one
one
side.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you can
You
get
can
in
see
there and
everything.
do whatever you want.
So the other option, where you can take this off, and the tube goes in there.
Oh, the tube runs in there, and then
the tube that runs
right.
through. So you take the weights off, pull the tube out.
That makes
it goes
sense.
in
Okay,
there.
cool.
And you can stow it with the weights on, but of course it makes it superfluous. If you've got the weights, you might as well have the weights there.
Unbelievable. Wow, look at that. Look at all this stuff. Unbelievable. Too freaking cool. Yeah, we're gonna have to learn about this. That looks like a fuel pump. See, they put all these decusant plugs in there to keep the engine less humidity. So we got a Kestrel, Rolls-Royce Kestrel. This is amazing. And they learned some things about the engine. I was talking to the guy, Paul Sharma, over there. He's got my Tempest 5 engine, the Napier Sabre. And basically, they learned some things that they had this engine out for a while. They were having some problems with the water or something leaking through it was coming out the plug holes. And they figured out they had to have a jig or something to hold the motor and re-bolt everything down. Anyway, it was kind of, they were learning of the predecessor, getting into the Merlin. And yeah, so what was the deal about, you know, we noticed in the logbooks that the airplane had not flown in a while, and it was down and the Kestrel was out, and it was something about you had some water coming out through the plugs, and then Paul figured out you had to like rejig the thing up and bolt it together in a jig instead of just like a normal Merlin.
Yeah.
I'll
let Steve explain
when
this.
the off, I'll explain
Okay.
problems you can get, which you're going to have to be careful of. With the exception of these two up here, which are clever, most of them are fixed, but these two are hinged to get them out of the way because they can become awkward. What you haven't got is the exhaust pipe on here at the moment,
Right.
which comes out and down. It gives difficult access. So what Hawkers did, they designed a catch that can be undone and hinged. It's quite clever.
But I'm trying to figure out if you can't, how,
Because when you want to pull down, because there are pipes here,
I see.
the cowling cannot come.
I see.
I will
Okay.
probably cheat now by just taking this away.
Okay, so you can still screw it and unscrew it
Oh
with
yes,
the exhaust
but
stack
what
there.
you can't bring the cowling in this direction. It has to go down.
Oh
so
my
to get
gosh.
around that, they went.
Unbelievable. That was
This
some.
is the air intake, so we have to go over that, and then you would normally go down. You see. Yeah.
That is the only air intake for the carburetor?
Two. One either
Oh,
side.
one on each side. Okay, I was going
And,
to say that looked a
yeah.
little small.
Inside, at the base of that intake, there's a very coarse brass mesh, very coarse. Should a bird go in, or it won't get past the brass mesh in theory, but it leaves the other side open.
Huh.
So it doesn't get, the chances of two going in either side
Right.
are quite slim.
Yeah.
But originally on the early Kestrels, these were on the top.
Oh, I'll be damned. Yeah, I never had any luck trying to get two birds at the same time. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so these,
It survived the trip well, yeah.
no, that looks great.
Sorry, you wouldn't have let me get away with it.
Oh no.
So those
Those are just
plugs, at some point you found some water coming out of them, and so what was leaking?
Right, so it's a 6-cylinder block,
Right,
wet jacket with liners inside, with seals
right.
at the base here, and a virtually a pure aluminium seal at the top of the cylinder, very small ring. When it's clamped down, this is a precision fit. So you want all the cylinders or all the jackets to come down at the same time. So it's very precision.
So like on a Mustang, we would go back and we would like retorque the heads occasionally, but what you want to do is you want to bring them down all at the same time.
Well, even if you re-torque them, you can. There's no real torque figure anyway, because there was torque figures around in the early sort of 30s. We're talking of an engine design which is probably 100 years old now.
Wow.
But once it's running, it's almost on what I call on song, where the whole engine is moving. And
Right.
it relies on that aluminium seal for it to work.
Right.
As any wet line engine, if it starts to, it's a very small ring. If it starts to fail, the water will get into the combustion chamber. So when we do our pre-flights, I always have a look at the plugs just to make sure that it props and it turns fine and no water comes out through the plugs. If it comes out through the plugs, then we're in trouble, really.
So, okay, so then I'm trying to figure out, how do you know, so you got to back the plug off to know if it's coming out, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you can tell if you get a dribble from the exhaust stubs, but in this case it's difficult because you've got an exhaust system, you've got a pipe,
Right.
and that's not going to tell you anything.
So how often, every pre-flight you put?
No. When I tend to do it mostly when we're doing our annuals and our.
Oh, I see.
I will,
Okay.
but,
Okay. Or if it's sat for a long time or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. Yeah. Even by turning over, you can usually tell. But when I come to do an annual or the it's mostly the yearly annual, I would take all the plugs out anyway to do the
Right.
checks, and I would have a look because you can put a light inside, and you can usually tell if you did a little
Yeah.
bead or tiny amount of water on
Right.
the top of the piston.
If you did a compression check, could you hear air going into the intake? Or into the control
the
coolant
compression
system?
Test is, they only really work when it's warm.
Right,
And to
yeah.
get all the plugs out when it's warm is quite a good
Oh, right, right,
challenge.
right. Yeah,
So you can
okay.
get it warmed up and then.
Right.
So it won't tell you an awful lot.
But the only way that it's going to become a problem is if the engine's been running. If it's not a problem and the engine's been
No.
sitting like a year and a half
no,
here,
that's right, yeah.
it should be as good as it was.
Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
not a sort of thing that
I
will
see,
break
okay.
down over time.
Right.
And what I would say, what I would recommend to you with that in mind, really, is the throttle. You can go up to probably. I have to get the figures, so I don't want to sort of give you a number.
Has this
but
got a supercharger on it?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
But I would not go through the gate unless you really needed to.
So you just run it to zero boost? Zero
No,
boost.
you can go up to, well, zero's good, but plus 1, 2, but it can go up to 5.
Okay.
And to do that, you'd go what they call, go
so
through the gate.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And it's really
Yeah, I know, you know.
totally unnecessary for.
Yeah, it's
You know,
like
unless you're in going
like a
into
Mustang,
combat.
normal takeoff 61 inches, and if you want to go more like Ward, then you click it over and you
That's
shove
it.
it up and it goes 67 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So,
I can't believe I can remember all that stuff.
well, there's pilot slopes in there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and all that. So, but you can remember, from the Mustang. Sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. Cool. Well, no, I'm looking forward to it, and I printed all that stuff off you sent me.
Yeah.
And at some point during the week, and I learn a little bit more about the details, I'll
get
start
your-
sitting in the
Get
cockpit
in
and
there
going
have-
through
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool. So was when you all found the water in there,
Yep.
then the engine came out, went to Paul Sharman, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then Paul figured out kind of what the deal was. So was this the first time the Kestrel guys found the problem? And
No, it's been a problem throughout history, really.
oh, okay.
I would call it. It's almost like a jig. It was a beautifully ground jig, which is like a block which Paul's got. And Shuttleworth do the same. You clamp the cylinder block onto the jig to pressure test it.
Right.
And they can pressure test before it goes back on, so you know everything's working. Once you've done that, the block can go back on. I have done it with probably TFC's ones, the Vita collection. But there are some engines where you can do it without taking the engine out. In other words, take the block off. The problem with that, there's an extraction jig which you wind the handles to lift the head off. Because the engine's on an angle, the cylinder block tends to topple, and it can cause problems with the piston rings, and you don't want to break piston rings.
Okay.
You break a piston ring and it pops out and it goes down inside, it's a nightmare.
Oh
So
my gosh.
sometimes you have to say, right, we'll take the engine out, turn the engine into the vertical,
Wow.
then take the cylinder block off, and then you know there's no load on the
Golly, man, that's amazing. You know, of course, back then everybody knew all the details. Now we're trying to reinvent the wheel.
Sometimes if you see, say, the early Schneider Trophy racing,
Right, yeah.
and they had problems with cylinders, the real thoroughbred racehorse engines, I call them, they wouldn't take the engine out, they'd turn the aeroplane at an angle to get the cylinder block vertical.
Yeah, you just lift the float.
Crank it over,
Yeah.
and then they could take the block off.
Oh my gosh.
Saves removing the engine.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it can be done, I have done it.
Yeah.
Like this, but you've got to be extremely careful.
We'll just let some air out of the other tire and fill this one up.
Take the wheel off, yeah. But it's quite an angle, it's quite frightening.
Unreal. Oh my gosh. I assume that's is that the coolant tank?
No, that's your oil tank.
Oil tank, okay.
So that's made of the brass looking pump thing here is called a Constantinesco.
No
That's your interrupter gear for the machine guns.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
he's the guy developed it in World War I for the
It
hydraulic
remains the same
system.
right up to this point.
Really? Oh no way.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is the oil feed, the pressure oil feed. It's wrapped to stop it from freezing or getting tight.
That won't be a problem here.
No,
Huh. So I mean the Germans had the cam on the deal, and it was a mechanical
Yeah,
deal back to
yeah.
that held the pin back
Yeah.
when the prop was in the way, and then Constantinescu, who was a Romanian, as I
correct,
remember,
yeah, you're
so
right.
he basically came up with a hydraulic way of doing it.
Yep.
So you rounded a line. So that's just for holding it.
there's a T-bar on the top, the T-handle which you would pump. There's what they're called on the instrument panel,
Oh, I
a
see,
petty
right
air
there.
relief valve. That bleeds
Huh.
the air out of the system. It's a bit like your anti-lock brake system on the car, where it bumps around. If you've got air in the system, it doesn't work very well.
Huh.
So it would have had, it hasn't got them now, but it would, other side, cam motors to give you a pulse of oil.
Right. Okay.
And then the pulse of oil, the cam motors are on the back there, the pulse of oil would go down to the interrupter gear.
Right.
You'd pump up the system with a T-handle, leave it sticking out of it, so there's no air in the system, and then the oil pulses would pulse and activate the trigger.
Okay, so the oil pulses in the Constantinescu gear was in effect the cam with Fokkers
but in
bind
liquid
decker.
form, which made it great for any aircraft.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
route it
You
to
could
the
adapt
cables
it.
and cams, and
Yeah. So did the Germans in the First World War? They would have seen that, and they never adapted it.
Do you know I can't answer that?
I'll
I
be
don't
darned.
know. But
Or maybe after they figured it out, the Germans never shot one of those airplanes
the
down.
early Sockless used the same system you've just described, which is cams and
Right.
on gears to
Huh.
sort of synchronise the gun. But when that wore and there was wear in the system or it moved, you'd shoot your prop off.
I'll be damned. So it took a Romanian Constantinescu to figure out something the Sydney Cam couldn't come up with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what testament to him though, what it ran through from the First World War right the way up through the 1930s. It wasn't an issue on fighters, the Hurricanes,
Yeah.
because they're all out on the wing now.
Right,
They're not stuck in there.
Right.
The
Unreal.
other thing is really what people do not seem to realise is you cannot synchronise a Lewis gun. You can only synchronise a Vickers. It's because the arm of the Lewis gun is going backwards and forwards, and it tends to go out of sync. Whereas a Vickers is a rotary action. It is a machine.
Ah, okay.
Which is why the Vickers go forward and the Lewis is going back.
I'll be darned. Huh. Interesting. But these are like have a big receiver and blah blah. This one looks more like a, little small barrel with like a Lewis.
It is a Lewis.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
Lewis,
yeah. And so the guy changes the canister
He will have pegs inside here,
Right.
and magazine holders, and he will actually unclip them,
Yeah.
to take the empty one and clip it on.
Yeah.
People think the bar is there where it rolls over, but the gun, it needs to go forward, can go up and over.
So you don't shoot the guy's head off?
Yeah, but you'd have to be still quite smart because he can take a lot of the wing out and he can still take his tail out.
And the prop and the guys, oh my gosh.
And the tail.
And the top wing.
Yeah, and it gets carried away.
Yeah, I think I'd only be facing, yeah, but that's when he could completely turn all the way around.
Yes, that's great.
Hey, you think they would have put a stop on each side?
Well, sometimes they did, but this is where this seat folds up into the vertical.
Right.
He would strap himself into a hole, well, there's a ring in the bottom with the harness, put his heels on that and walk using that ring. So he'd put his heels in and literally put his back into there's some blocks in there.
Right.
And he could walk the scarf ring around.
Right.
These bungees would be unclipped with a handle and then the whole frame just floats.
Right.
And it all moves very, very smoothly.
Okay, so and the bungees are adjusted for the weight of the gun, so it's like 0G. Oh, that's unreal. See, we're trying to get that to mechanically work electrically in the A26 right now. So we don't. And when we first did the airplane, the turret worked, but we never had it to where the guy sitting in the seat, because he sits in the seat, went around. So I insisted. So we had to pull the turret back out and put stuff in and go find a motor that we never had. So when my A26 shows up, that's all going to work.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
You have to be a bit careful with bungee, because people think bungee and exercise cord are the same. They're not. Bungee is bungee. And the reason for the coloured flecks of colour in them.
Really?
And here, see the coloured flecks?
Yeah.
That's a code. That tells you the date it was made.
It is.
So that's, bungee has it ages and it deteriorates. So you can look that up and that will tell you exactly what year that was made by this coloured flecks.
I'll be darned. Now, will it also tell you, or is it always the size, a certain stretch capacity?
No, bungee is quite complex. No.
Okay.
So it goes into a batching system, and we've had the same size bungee. This looks like 5/8.
Yeah.
And I can't pull it. It's like stone.
Right.
And I can get a different batch, same size, and I can pull it. And it's all to do with the way it's in the mill and the way it's made. So it's multiple strands of rubber, covered in fabric. The fabric is the limiting factor, so the fabric can only stretch so far and stops.
Right.
If you just had the rubber bungee, it would continuously pull.
Right.
This is the stop.
But my question is, if this has to be a certain capacity to pull this up and down, then how do you know?
Right, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. This is why you've got this, what we call the excess of bungee. So that's tied up out the way. Cut these strings, that will dangle down. This is your hand hold. In here are two shaped wedges for like
so you
teeth on them.
pre-stress the thing to a certain lift capacity.
So you'd get it into the aircraft, you'd fill it up with coolant, and in this case it's got a summer coolant in it, fill it up with coolant. You want the radiator to balance, you don't want it to fly in, you don't want it to drop out.
Right.
So you would pull the cord, we measure it, we just put a line on here, measure it, and you pull it round, you get that nice comfortable balance. There is a clutch on the wheel, on the hand wheel, you'll see the hand wheel in it, and that's really, if the airplane goes into a violent manoeuvre, you don't want the thing just to come flying out.
Right.
Otherwise the radiator will fall off. And
I've never done a violent maneuver in an airplane, I'm just saying.
So so you know, there's once you do the cockpit, you'll see the wheel over there. You've got the trim, that's the radiator one opposite. This is trim wheel.
Yeah, right.
The radiator's over there. We'll go around the other side and you can see the clutch, how it works.
Oh, I see it over there, yeah. It says radiator down and up.
That's it.
Oh, so you just rotate that over there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
On the cross member, just at the base of the instrument panel, just there, you'll see a pointer. That tells you when the radiator's in. It's very crude.
Oh, you're kidding.
So I will move that now.
It looks like a fuel.
No, can you see that there? Moving?
Oh yeah, okay.
Literally,
so if you go on the other side and rotate it, it'll basically. I'll be darned. Oh my gosh, I'm getting checked out on the airplane right now. That's what I'm saying.